Throughout the many years, Eldenring has grown in popularity due to its many hard boss fights, such as fighting against a character known as Melania. Melania is one of the demigod children of Queen Marika the Eternal and the second Elden Lord Radagon of the Golden Order. Melania is the twin sister of Miquella the Unalloyed and was one of the most powerful demigods to be known, whose only known match was against her half-brother Starscourge Radahn. But what if we replace her battle with Radahn with Madara? With Madara wanting to conquer the Eldenring and finally coming into contact with Princess Melania herself, the last hope for the Elden Lords, and Madara challenging her to see if he can overcome the entirety of the Eldenring universe. With that being said, please be sure to like and subscribe, as it would mean a lot and truly be appreciated, as I am on the road to 10,000 subscribers. Also, please be sure to join the Discord server in the pinned comment and description down below, as this video is entirely sponsored by Pandemonia Discord server. However, without further ado, let's begin. The entire Naruto universe and history has all been a byproduct and culmination of the Otsutsuki's influence on the planet, starting with Kaguya Otsutsuki. Kaguya is the mother of Hagoromo, the Sage of Six Paths, and his brother Hamura. Many years after their birth and imprisonment of Kaguya, Hagoromo would birth two sons known as Indra and Ashura. Hagoromo would bestow the gift of Ninshu, later denoted as ninjutsu, to his son Ashura, which would anger his elder brother Indra. Due to this, Indra and Ashura would fight, and with the help of his father Hagoromo, Ashura would win the scuffle, although this would not be the end of this bout, and thus the cycle of hatred would begin. Many years and generations after this, during the Warring States period, a young Hashirama would meet another kindred spirit known as Madara. The two would bond over the death of their younger brothers, and the two would begin to dream about a world of peace where children do not have to die and fight like they themselves and their brothers did. However, many years down the line, Madara would begin to lose hope in this dream, and through hatred, his ocular powers would begin to swell and grow dramatically. However, Hashirama still believed. During their many fights after this, Madara would attain the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and tame the Kyuubi known as Kurama. Kurama in the data books has been stated multiple times to be able to not only eliminate the current order of ninja society by destruction, but to be capable of destroying the entirety of the world whilst only having half of its overall power in existence, due to the fourth Hokage Minato sealing half of it into himself and the other half into Naruto prior to his death. However, even with this newfound power and the nine-tailed Biju, Hashirama would still prevail. 16 years later, Madara would come back, although just a bit weaker in his Edo form, and fight the Shinobi Alliance. During Madara's fight against the Alliance, he would use an ability called the Tengai Shinsei that allows him to pull multi-continental asteroids from geostationary orbit. Not once, not twice, but many times, even after he attains his Ten Tails form, which of course I'll get into. After slamming the entirety of the Alliance, the Kage, and even the 9 Biju he himself tamed in the past using his newly awakened Rinnegan abilities, Madara would absorb Hashirama's Senjutsu, the Ten Tails, and finally the God Tree, and awaken the Rinne Sharingan. The Ten Tails is stated to be so powerful that both half of Kurama's admit blatant inferiority to it and proceed to glaze its power many times over. Keep in mind, by this point, Madara has already shown many planetary feats throughout the series and during his almost 100-year lifespan, including his fights against Hashirama, and Madara would absorb numerous planetary ants on top of that. The reason for this is because it's implied that when Madara begins to revive fully, Hashirama implies that Madara is regaining his past power that should be stronger than his Edo self and even greater than what we saw. Since we don't exactly know when Madara's prime was, and since the Ten Tails and God Tree is already a 3 times planetary ant, due to the Ten Tails being a bare minimum 2 times stronger than the Nine Tails, and then some due to the extra Biju used to create it. Madara should be even stronger since the basic Rinnegan is said to be an exponential increase, and the Rinne Sharingan is not only stronger than a pair of 2 Rinnegan and Sharingan, but is the combination of both, and then some. And this is even described as a Kekkei Genkai, but it's described as a Kekkei Mora. So yeah, Madara is very much above planetary by a very large mile. With Madara gaining these new abilities, Madara also accepts and attains these 6 past abilities, such as being able to rip out your soul, the Soul Dragon, being able to technologically reconstruct his body, his limbo clones that are stated to exist on a higher dimensional plane prior to the Naruto one, and many, many more. In my opinion, Madara only has 3 win cons in this entire fight, but I'll get into those later. When it comes to speed, Madara is bare bones fast and light, with the crutch of my scaling mainly coming from Madara transcending everything before his reintroduction into the series during the war. This would include the Kirin, the Water Bullet, Daruy's Laser Circuit, and every other prior lightspeed feat by potentially thousands of times due to how the BG multipliers work. If I were to put a number on it, it would be at bare minimum 400 times lowballing due to how each tail of the 9 tails is also a 10 times amp whilst having half of its power shown, and the 10 tails in the war just blatantly shown to be above Kurama, slapping it and Gyuki away when it first appears. And anything below massively fast and light for the high tiers in the later parts of the war arc is just massive downplay and has been proven to be wrong time and time again.
Going over Radahn versus Melania can definitely be a bit annoying in the Eldenring fandom, but the main crutch of my scaling comes from CG World magazine. According to issue 286, the cinematic director for Eldenring and the upcoming expansion Shadow of the Erdtree is very overt and definitive that Melania is fatigued in her clash with Radahn, and Takaki Yamagishi implies that the outcome of the fight would have been different, or actually had a victor besides it ending in a stalemate, but due to Melania's character, as we know she has a quote-unquote spirit of resistance, or a supernatural will, isn't the type to show weakness or call it quits over being fatigued. This verbiage gives little room to outright none at all for any alternate interpretations or weird headcanon the fandom has been running with for years. This means a prime and peak Radahn and a fatigued Melania as Miquella's Blade or the Severed, while resisting her true divine power that she was afflicted with, linearly scaled to each other as they matched each other's blows on screen, fought to a standstill, then a Scarlet Aeonia was let off, resulting in a stalemate, with Melania going into a coma from the trauma of blooming from the first time, and Radahn succumbing to the state we see him in game. It's time to stop living in the past. These anecdotal claims from Blad and Jaren, 2 characters that have personal ties to Radahn, about Radahn being the strongest demigod during the Shattering, have absolutely no truth value behind them when we actually assess the reality of the situation. If he was truly the strongest against someone who's fatigued, mind you, he could have easily one-tapped or even low-diffed, but you know, that's not what happened remotely. Radahn being able to hold or arrest the movement of countless stars or swirling constellations in his prime. The term swirling constellations, which is actually just flowing stars in the original Japanese in this context, refer to celestial eldritchy aliens and not literal stars. However, some of these stars, like the fully grown Estelles, can create nebulas of darkness with dozens of stars in them in one go with their life force. As we know, all stars or these celestial aliens in Eldenring are composed of glintstone, and this supernatural substance houses their life force. The sheer magnitude of Radahn's hold and the duration of time he was able to do it for does entail that it is indicative of his attack potency, since no other alien who utilizes gravity magic in Eldenring can really do something like this on this scale. Now, attack potency doesn't equal creation or destructive capacity. That is to say, Melania does have the energy behind her attacks relative to the potency of Radahn's gravity magic that can hold celestial aliens capable of creating nebulas of darkness with dozens of legitimate stars in them, but she herself can't outgravitate them as she doesn't utilize glintstone magic in combat. Creating dozens of stars in one go would be a multi-solar system level feat rather than just large star level, given that creating multiple stars all at once within a nebula is smack in the face indications of an influence over multiple star systems. And once again, Melania as the Severed or Miquella's Blade while fatigued scales directly to this. There is a low end for Melania's scaling that's based on the estimation of the impact the falling star made in Limgrave when Radahn's hold ends, which the crater's overview has been calculated to reach anywhere from 10 to the 17 joules to 10 to the 20 joules, depending on who you ask. This is just one falling star out of the countless amount of them in Radahn's hold, so if we consider the cumulative effect of multiple mountain level to island level meteors from just landing upon impact from the atmosphere, it can reach anywhere from 10 to the 21 to 10 to the 23 joules, once again depending on who you ask. This low-end interpretation does ignore a lot of things though for the sake of providing a lowball, and both Radahn and Melania's power when actually assessed clearly extends beyond what's initially perceived from many who just ignore what they're capable of to downplay the verse. Eventually, the player character levels up to the point he can fight in-game bosses and runs into Melania after sleeping for 5,000 plus years, according to George R.R. Martin. The player character pushes her to the point that she resorts to the very power she rejected for eons, alongside Mikola literally divesting everything he's known for the sake of curing this divine affliction. Not only becomes a goddess of this plague, but gets a massive and sudden surge in power to the point that she's highly proficient in utilizing this affliction to outright displaying mastery over it in combat, enhancing her overall strength, effectiveness, and versatility in the heat of battle. In this goddess transformation, Melania is able to fly, emanate an aura of scarlet rot, infuse scarlet rot into her attacks, which would grant her the ability to induce status effects, can spam scarlet Aeonia explosions, have explosions of scarlet rot that follow up after an overhead strike, and the ability to create clones of scarlet rot that are roughly relative to the original. As the goddess of rot, Melania is easily rivaling, if not above, Ranni, at least from the base game. Not necessarily her Age of Stars version, being able to shape an entire universe alongside creating phantoms that can harness this universe-creating power in combat with her magic alone. Melania as a goddess of rot can easily bypass Ranni's intangibility, given that Scarlet Rot can already alter and eat away Great Runes, with Great Runes being conceptual in nature as they're shards or integral components of a metaphysical abstraction that defines the world, i.e. the Elden Ring, let alone a doll that just has intangible properties to it. Is a far better melee combatant due to her unparalleled mastery of the sword, and objectively fights a stronger version of the player character. One of the most underrated aspects of Melania is most definitely her skill. She is legit, if not the most skilled combatant in the entire verse, boasting remarkable resilience, blatant weapon mastery, and adaptability. This is due to the fact that she's able to overcome high levels of adversity, taking the form of a divine plague that induces nightmares, drives one mad, and physically deteriorates the body to the point she doesn't have an arm, either of her legs, nor her eyes, and not only adapts to her circumstances via her consecrated prosthetics, but is actually thriving despite this level of adversity, being renowned for her undefeated prowess as a swordsman, besides obviously losing to the player character, having heightened instincts and awareness due to the fact that she's blind in combat, and leading an undefeated campaign across the lands between during the Shattering War as a general. In terms of speed, the player character can react to deluges of light from the Miranda flowers, fresh into Limgrave without possessing any Great Runes, as some random fodder. This deluge is depicted as a torrent of beams of light raining down on the player character. Think of it like the Nagasion from Bleach. Great Runes clearly serve as legit amps for the player character, regardless of whether its benediction is restored or not. As stated on the official Bandai Namco site, it's stated that the shards of the Elden Ring, or Great Runes, grant unyielding power and is what allowed the demigods to rule their domain, but eventually they all went mad and became warped by the sheer power that the Great Runes possess. And for those who don't know, at least 2 Great Runes are mandatory to have in the player character's possession for progressing through Lanedale, let alone the Halleck tree. So I think it's fair in all honesty to say Melania as the Severed or Mikola's Blade is at least in the FTL ranges in combat and reactions if we take these into consideration, with her Goddess of Rot transformation being unquantifiably higher than it was in her base, given that her health bar almost completely regenerates after the first phase, and clearly being more agile than she was in base.
Now, at first glance, it seems as though Melania should win 10 out of 10 times, especially given the fact that she has solar system through universal levels of scaling, with Madara only touching those tiers of power, with Madara Winker saying he scales to Kaguya, even though he clearly doesn't. However, like I said, Madara has 3 specific win cods, which, if you think apply to Melania, can sway the battle in his favor drastically, even if he's outclassed in terms of AP, those being his soul hacks and manipulation, Genjutsu, and Madara's Mangekyo Sharingan ability that allows him to reverse time in the games. Madara's soul hacks abilities are predicated from not only the Rinnegan being able to take your soul out of your body, as seen with Nagato and the Soul Dragon, but the Chusika orbs. The Chusika orbs are stated to nullify all ninjutsu due to their superior properties, but also destroy the soul. This is seen many times with Minato when he's hit by them by both Ten Tails Obito and Madara, and is shown in the afterlife with still no arms. So unless Melania has any soul hack resistances due to Madara and herself being relative in speed, if Madara is able to land a hit on her using the orbs, then it's GG's in Madara's favor. But again, that's if she doesn't have any soul hack resistances of her own. The next win conditions are both Genjutsu and the Izanagi, with the Izanagi being able to manipulate reality, at least in the words of the databook, that allows the caster to bypass many disadvantages such as damage or even death, as shown by Danzo and even Madara himself. Meaning, Melania's ability of Rot may have little effect on Madara, which is also due to his godly regeneration, although Madara can only use this ability 3 times at most, since of course he's not Hagoromo. Genjutsu is also pretty self-explanatory, with Madara potentially trapping Melania in an infinite loop and thus winning that way, or Genjutsuing her out of commission or something. Honestly, either way is fine. Again, if not, Madara completely loses. Finally, and most importantly, it's Madara's sort of unknown Mangekyo Sharingan ability to turn back time, which is seen in the Generations cutscene as well as the anime flashback as well, which are both canon. If you believe Madara has the ability to do this, then AP doesn't really matter, unless of course Madara is one-shotted on the spot, which, since Melania has the greater AP advantage, would probably happen. Although all these abilities in conjunction with each other may give Madara the win, with the soul hacks intertwined with Madara turning back time being his best chance in my opinion. But other than that, of course, Madara would and should lose and Melania should win, due to many characters such as Radon being able to control different types of magic that give birth to many stars using gravity magic, which Melania is able to combat during their fight at the beginning of the game. However, with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed. Please be sure to subscribe to Rogue, as without him this wouldn't be possible. He knows a lot about God of War, Elden Ring, and many other games. So if you're interested in that, I'm sure you'll like his channel a lot. Once again, please be sure to join my Discord server Pandemonia, as this video was sponsored by one of its members, and it would truly be appreciated. However, once again, with that being said, please be sure to subscribe to myself and leave a like, as that would be greatly appreciated. Make sure to stay safe, have a nice rest of your day or night, and till next time.